In Argentina, citizens prepare for one of the largest protests yet against the libertarian government demanding adequate funding for public universities. Palestinian Ministry of Health confirmed that the Israeli occupation army has killed 34,637 Palestinians since October 7th. In the UK, Parliament approved the government's plan to deport asylum seekers to Rwanda. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. With all-night sit-ins, Argentina prepares for one of the largest protests yet against the libertarian government demanding adequate funding for public universities. On Wednesday, the Federal University March will take to the streets of major cities in the country, including its capital, Buenos Aires. The massive mobilization has already gathered adhesions from most of the political and union spectrum, including the support of several Nobel Prize winners. The education community is demanding an end to threats and fund cuts, a fair budget, and decent salaries. For many, Tuesday's mobilization could be a starting point to rethink what's to come in the Latin American country. Hours earlier, the president of Argentina, Javier Milei, called for a national broadcast on national media, in which he self-congratulated for the budget surplus of 0.2%. The banging of pots and pans accompanied his recorded statement, in which he delivered flanked by his economic team on Monday night. He then read a series of macroeconomic data with which he intended to demonstrate compliance with the goal of the monetary fund. In addition to the spontaneous protests, experts have commented that this alleged win rests on the 43% adjustment of pensions, 92% of medicines, and the historic cut that will take the university students to the streets on Tuesday. The Brazilian government launched on Monday the Acredita program, which seeks to promote access to credit for individual micro-entrepreneurs and small businesses in the country. In this regard, Brazilian President Luis Inácio Lula da Silva stated that the program is not only a new credit policy announcement, but also demonstrates the support of the people to govern the South American country again. In this sense, the President explained that the objective of providing credit opportunities is to create conditions so that regardless of the amount, social origin, or size of the company, people have the right to access the financial system. In Peru, citizen and human rights activist Ana Estrada became the first Peruvian to access euthanasia as a fundamental right to a dignified death. The procedure was carried out in compliance with the dignified death protocol plan applicable to Estrada, who had suffered from polymyositis since she was 12 years old and was approved by the National Health Social Security. Ana Estrada's decision was based on the framework of the historic sentence in her favor, issued on February 23, 2021, and ratified by the Supreme Court on July 27, 2022, where she stated that she sought to die in accordance with her idea of dignity and in full control of her autonomy. The case set a precedent in the Peruvian judicial process for people like Maria Benito, who suffers amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. Let's deepen into Ana Estrada's life story and struggle. They started by saying that polymyositis is a degenerative disease that has no cure and causes weakness due to muscle inflammation and a lot of pain. Estrada was able to overcome the disease and disability and graduated as a psychologist, but as time went by, the pain and immobility became unbearable. Her request for assisted death was initially rejected by the Social Security doctors. Later, the young psychologist vigorously defended her right to end her life and became an internationally known euthanasia activist, receiving support from different sides. Venezuelan government dismantles over 335 criminal gangs as part of Operation Gran Cacique Guaycaipuro. During his statement, the sectoral vice president for security and peace, Remigio Ceballos, reported on the security operation in the central state of Aragua, where a gang led by the criminal fugitive from justice Alexander Locar Salazar was dismantled. In his report, he revealed that 355 criminal gangs have been dismantled, 567 weapons have been seized, and 1,048 individuals have been arrested. Ceballos denounced the existence of plans that are promoted by the extremist right wing to destabilize the country with maneuvers of media terrorism, political operators, actions of fascist violence, biological terrorism, and economic warfare. Foreign Affairs Minister of Venezuela, Ivan Hill, denounced through his X account the U.S. State Department report on human rights for Venezuela. Hill states in the post that the U.S. designed the most violent plan of aggression against the men and women of his country, assuring that this plan aims to make the population suffer and consolidate its strategy of regime change in favor of the stateless oligarchy. The foreign minister also blames the U.S. government for supporting neo-Nazi regimes such as Israel and promoting wars and massacres on a global scale. Ivan Hill concluded by affirming that Venezuela is a solid democracy and does not need to receive lessons from a decadent empire. Meanwhile, the president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, met in Caracas with the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Karim Khan, with the objective of establishing a joint work plan between the High Court and the South American government. During his 3 days in the country, the high official is expected to sign technical assistance and cooperation agreements between the International Court and local judicial institutions. Likewise, Khan will also tour different localities to verify the impact of the U.S. blockade on the Venezuelan people. This will be the fourth visit of the prosecutor Karim Khan in view of the upcoming presidential elections to take place in the Latin American country on July 28th. And the Venezuelan people participated in the great national consultation called Communes Can Do More, with the objective of defining by vote the election of priority popular projects for the communities. 15,617 voting centers were set up in the 23 states of the South American nation for this voting day, called by President Nicolás Maduro. All Venezuelan men and women participated, all that were over 15 years of age. The citizens chose among nearly 23,000 social projects proposed by the more than 4,500 communes located in the national territory. These projects are aimed at sectors such as health, education, food security, environment, public services, and economy, and the elected ones will be financed by the government and executed by the organized communities themselves. International observers accompany the process of popular consultation on community projects. Our correspondent Gladys Quesada has all the details.
On Sunday, more than 200 international observers gathered in Venezuela to accompany the popular consultation on communes. They came to see how the people are being asked about their specific needs and to allow solutions to be found from there. Many come from progressive social movements and consider this process as a possible path.
I've found this process so far already, learning about it, very inspirational. I'd like to bring back that feeling of inspiration and struggle from Venezuela back to Australia.
In their trip to Caracas, the observers had the opportunity to learn how each commune, in assemblies and grassroots discussions, identified their most pressing problems: improving water and electricity services, repairing common infrastructure, watching over the state of the highways and the roads, concerns that are not far from their own. For others, it is an experience that they hope will be replicated at home.
The people participation in the decision making of the various projects in the community, that is something very impressive. Like the people decide and vote which projects they want the government to fund. That's something I've not seen anywhere else, so it's something very nice.
In their goal of taking part in the consultation, many of them took route to the hills in Antímano. There, they learned about communal strategies like a social dining room that feeds the most vulnerable, or a textile workshop that makes and provides free of charge school clothes. Many take with them the impression of a process as wide and complex as this one. Others understand that more about popular power, and some take another values.
Hugo Chavez to start to reorganize political, social processes in Venezuela many years ago, and now Nicolás Maduro more to continue this process in Venezuela. So I think it will be a very good experience, personal experience, and of course for future processes too.
From the consultation will come out winning projects that aim to improve the life of Venezuelans from their own decision, under the premise that popular power is possible. Gladys Quesada, teleSUR, Caracas, Venezuela.
Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador described the alleged attack against presidential candidate Claudia Sheinbaum as propaganda. Mexican head of state López Obrador commented on the incident registered in Motocintla with presidential candidate Claudia Sheinbaum. According to López Obrador, the fact that some hooded men detained a candidate of the alliance, we will continue making history, just when an opposition media was recording, is a propaganda event. The head of state discarded that Sheinbaum's integrity is at risk and emphasized that if the candidates requested, security could be reinforced. López Obrador assured that the attempts of conservative groups to gain power by manipulated opinion have failed. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. On Tuesday, the Palestinian Ministry of Health confirmed that the Israeli occupation army has killed 34,637 Palestinians since October 7th last year. The report also added at least 18,000 of the victims were children and teenagers, while the number of wounded exceeds 77,200 people, in addition to more than 8,000 missing persons presumed to be under the rubble. All this besides the complete destruction of hospitals, the murder, kidnapping and disappearance of medical personnel, and the blocking of the entry of humanitarian aid. In this context, human rights activists describe the presence of the Zionist army in Gaza as barbarism never before seen on the planet. According to the latest data from the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, the World Health Organization, and the Palestinian government, as of April 21st, the Israeli attacks on Gaza have left a remarkable devastation with high damages to the population and the social infrastructure. Official reports thus highlight that more than half of the homes in Gaza have been destroyed or damaged, and that within the core damage of the Zionist attacks, 80% of commercial facilities have been destroyed, 90% of school buildings, while in the health sectors only 11 out of 35 hospitals are partially functioning, and 83% of the subway water wells are not functioning. In Palestine, medics managed to save a baby from the belly of her mother, who was killed during an Israeli bombardment in Rafah, south of the Gaza Strip. Sabrine Judah arrived in the world minutes after her mother was killed, after the family home was hit by an Israeli airstrike at midnight on Saturday. In addition to her mother, her father and 4-year-old sister were killed in the bombing. However, at the Kuwait hospital, where the bodies were taken, medical workers performed an emergency C-section on the woman, who was 30 weeks pregnant, saving the life of the newborn. According to authorities, at least 2/3 of more than 34,000 Palestinians killed by Israel in Gaza have been children and women.
The baby has been treated since yesterday until now. We can say that there is some progress in her state of health, but the situation is still at risk. This respiratory distress syndrome is originally caused by a premature birth. This child should have been in her mother's womb at that time, but she was deprived of this right.
The Israeli army carried out a new incursion against a Palestinian refugee camp in the occupied West Bank. Local media confirmed that Tel Aviv troops stormed the Balata refugee camp east of the city of Nablus, as well as other Palestinian camps during the early hours on Monday morning. The military forces, accompanied by Israeli settlers, deployed patrols, armored vehicles, and bulldozers to evict the Palestinian refugees. The violent actions of Israel were accompanied by gunfire and aggression against residents of these and other neighboring towns. According to the Palestinian Ministry of Health, at least 6 people suffered gunshot wounds during the Israeli invasions. The Lebanese resistance movement Hezbollah attacked the Israeli settlement of Chomera in response to the attacks perpetrated by the occupation army against villages and civilians' homes in southern Lebanon. In a statement, the movement confirmed that it had attacked a building used by Israeli uniformed forces in the occupied Lebanese town of Tarbika. The resistance fighters further reported the destruction of newly installed surveillance equipment around the Doviv barracks, as well as the firing of heavy Birken rockets towards an Israeli soldier's position south of the military site. The Lebanese resistance reiterated they will continue until the Tel Aviv regime ceases its actions over Gaza. The government of Iran assured that nuclear weapons not only have no place in its country defense doctrine, but that their use is for peaceful purposes only. In his weekly press conference, the spokesman of the Iranian Foreign Ministry, Nasser Kanani, assured that Iran's nuclear doctrine is quite clear and considers the peaceful use of nuclear energy as an inalienable right of its country, while reiterating that it has not been changed. In this sense, the official pointed out that these activities will continue within the framework of the agreement with International Atomic Energy Organization and the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. These statements come in the midst of tensions with Israel and threat of attacks against Iran's atomic centers. We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. In the UK, the Parliament approved the government's plan to deport asylum seekers to Rwanda, a move that has been described by the United Nations as a gross violation of human rights. Lawmakers include a series of amendments that the House of Lords voted favorably on. In this way, they stated that Rwanda is a safe destination despite the violence reported in recent months. Before the parliamentary resolution, the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak assured that with or without the approval of that body, the deportation flights will begin in the coming month. This plan, initially proposed by former Minister Boris Johnson in 2022, had been rejected by the High Court and slammed by human rights experts.
Once the processing is complete, we will physically remove people. And to do that, I can confirm that we've put an airfield on standby, booked commercial charter planes for specific slots, and we have 500 highly trained individuals ready to escort illegal migrants all the way to Rwanda, with 300 more trained in the coming weeks.
UN experts attached to the Human Rights Council have stated in a public statement that airlines working for the British government transporting asylum seekers to Rwanda could be in breach of human rights law. The experts state, even if the UK-Rwanda agreement and the Rwanda security bill are passed, airlines could be complicit in human rights violations. Experts also indicated that if airlines and aviation authorities give effect to such state decisions, they must be held accountable for their conduct. Experts underline that in the UN guiding principles on business and human rights, aviation regulators and business actors are obliged to respect human rights. Finally, the three UN experts signing this warning are Sioba Mulali, Jehad Madi, and Alice Gill Edwards. The United Nations Security Council resumed discussions on Monday on the crisis in Haiti after the country registered the first quarter of 2024 as the most violent in the last 2 years. The session of the main world body for peace will coincide with the warnings for the continuous activity of the armed gangs, which is causing a serious food and security crisis in the country. The international body also confirmed a 53% increase in murders and injuries related to gang violence, recording 2,500 events from January to March 2024. They also warned that social services are on the verge of collapse amid persistent violence in the capital and supplies are alarmingly low. Rains recorded since Saturday in El Salvador have caused flooding in the country's capital. The Ministry of Environment informed that the rains and storms occur in several regions, among them the central and northeastern areas. According to the report, the rains produced an accumulation of between 40 and 60 centimeters of water in El Piro Creek, and in less than an hour caused damage in the capital, San Salvador. On the other hand, civil protection experts confirmed that the municipality is carrying out drainage works in the affected areas and remodeling works are underway after the rains, which they consider to be the beginning of the rainy season in El Salvador. In China, authorities reported over 11 people missing in the southern province of Canton following recent floods. The Provincial Department of Emergency Management added that a total of 53,741 people were relocated, of which 12,256 had to be urgently resettled. The agency also confirmed that 3 people were found dead in the city of Chongqing, one of the areas with the highest level of damage caused by the rainfall. Local authorities urged the public to cut off power supply in high-risk areas, as well as to suspend outdoor activities and events. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Mr. Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.